Thank you. Sorry for the overrun and keeping all of you from lunch. We'll try to make it very engaging and not too long. So first, a very thank you to MPA for hosting and for inviting me to be the moderator for this session. We all know that many of us gathered here same time last year to exchange ideas, to network, and also to seek collaboration. But fast forward through the events in 2024, such as the Red Sea crisis, we have the drought in Panama Canal, we have the Baltimore accident, and now we have the start of the Trump's administration for the second term. We have actually come together for a whole year through stormy seas. But, okay, one thing is I don't work for the MPA, but I really like to take a moment to highlight the milestones that is achieved by Maritime Singapore in 2024. Just bear with me if I read through the milestones. The annual vessel arrival tonnage in the Port of Singapore grew by 0.6%, reaching a new record of 3.11 billion gross tonnage. The key shipping categories of bulk containers and tankers each accounted for close to a third, with bulk carriers hitting a record high in 2024. Our container throughput from both PSA and Jurong Port crossed the 40 million TEU mark for the first time, growing from 5.4% and reaching a new record of 41.12 million TEUs compared to 39 million in 2023. Singapore continues to retain the #1 transition hub title globally. Total bunker sales registered a new high of 54.92 million tons, marking a 6% year-on-year increase. Specifically, the sale of biofuel blends grew from 0.52 million tons in 2023 to 0.88 million tons. Biofuel blends of up to B50 are now available commercially, and trials of up to B100 is in the works. So LNG increased from 0.11 million tons in 2023 to 0.46 million tons. Methanol is now available on commercial scale, and ammonia was bunkered for the first time globally in trials in our port. So a big round of applause for MPA and Port of Singapore for their achievements. So I've been trading throughout my career, and what I've witnessed is I've seen that challenges bring opportunities. Today, we have 5 esteemed industry peers who are on the stage with me today to share their views on what they see as in for opportunities and for challenges for in shipping for 2025 and beyond. Let's kickstart with, firstly, with Jeremy Nixon, CEO of ONE. So Jeremy, being industry's one of the top honchos for container sector, what may be the foreseeable macro factors that may impact container trades, and which are the key global trends that will continue to drive growth in the short to the longer term?
Thank you so much, and thank you for everybody staying on for the panel today. I know it's been a long program and we're between you and your lunch, but I think I could say that shipping is an extremely professional industry. We've been around for a very long time. All of us are involved in shipping. We are the servants of global trade. We connect markets, we connect freight. And I think that generally shipping has been going in the right direction. We know how to build ships more safely, operate them more safely, to decarbonize, to be able to connect more and more ports and economies. So I think that side continues very much. And of course, there's ups and downs in terms of the economy and those type of factors. And that's our bread and butter. What goes up comes down, what goes around comes back. So I think we all understand shipping very well. Our immediate 3 challenges right now in 2025 are 3 political processes. The first one is the immediate short-term one, which is in the US with the Section 301 USTR potential penalties on port calls by vessel operators, whatever sector, but it particularly impacts us on the container side. And the hearings are in Washington this week. And I think that many of us across the industry, including many of our customers, have been speaking out, trying to allow the regulators to better understand the unintended consequences, potentially, of some of the legislation they're bringing forward. I don't want to hype that up today. I think we're in the consultation phase, and we'll find out, frankly, on the 17th of April, because that's the one-year process, Section 301, as to whether that's reality or not reality. And then we'll have to very, very quickly adjust and adapt as it could. But that would have a massive impact, potentially, on the container shipping sector and our customers in the container sector. The second one, I think, is the immediate situation with the security in the Red Sea, the developments in the Eastern Mediterranean with Syria, with Gaza, with Israel, and the situation with Iran and the Houthis. So far, we were quite optimistic, hoping to see some improvement in the safety and security situation. That doesn't look likely now based on the events, particularly in the last week. So probably continuing to route round the Cape of Good Hope is a continued paradigm for likely the rest of this year as the way things stand. And that has a big impact on our operations, a big impact on the supply and demand. Yeah, and then the third one, of course, is the longer term one, which is about decarbonization. And we're all working with the shipyards, we're working with the engine manufacturers, the energy companies, etc. We can build decarbonized ships, we can operate decarbonized ships. But it's really understanding the regulator, and what is going to come out of IMO in the next 4 to 6 weeks is absolutely critical in terms of the trajectory on decarbonization. And many of us are doubled down on our decarb strategies, but we'll have to adjust in terms of what comes out of those sessions. So I think those are the three key issues. Normally we deal with economic fluctuation. Now we've got three very big political issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeremy. I think we'll deep dive later into the decarbonization, and then we also have Christopher here today to cover a bit on the regulation. But before that, let's jump over to Zahid Osman, President and Group CEO of MISC Berhad. Zahid comes with extensive background in the oil and tanker industry. So Zahid, what's your outlook on tanker and bunker markets?
Thanks, Xing Yang. I mean, thank you, first of all, to MPA for inviting me to this today panel session. I think what Jeremy mentioned about the three trends that we have seen. I think in the short term, the continual conflict, either in the Middle East or in Europe, certainly is not good for the global trade. And the continuous new policy on trade, sanction as well as tariff that be introduced, it certainly have a negative impact to a certain extent on global trade. So if I bring back those development, I think in the short term, you will see that in the tanker market, I think a lot of this trade needs to rerouted. We are seeing a lot of diversion, try to avoid to ensure safety of our asset and our people, and that drive the ton mile on the petroleum tankers especially. In the short term, this is good because it will increase the demand for tankers, and that support the high rates that we are enjoying at the moment. But the thing is, whether it's sustainable or not, I think there is something to be seen. I think the other thing that we have seen is that this disrupt the introduce volatility in the supply chain for the industry. I think that is critical because we know we have experienced that before during COVID, and this is also create a lot of this uncertainty on the global supply chain.
Thank you, Zahid. I think maybe we'd like to hear a bit more about the bulk flows from Sagasan. So Sagasan, I guess nowadays many of us tend to Google latest news on Trump administration first thing in the morning. So Sagasan, would you like to maybe touch on a bit more on, so Sagasan is our, by the way, President and Group CEO at NYK Line. So Sagasan, how do you view the bulk flows amidst all these trade tensions between US and other countries? And also a bit of crystal ball insights for the longer term?
Thank you, Ian. That's a very difficult question, actually. But I have several times to talk with my customers, and all of them are really affected by the Trump administration. Every day, every morning, he's saying the different thing, and every company is going right, going left every day. So it's quite a difficult situation. But I understand all of them are using kind of the lobbyists in Washington, and they try to get the all updated information every day. And then they have a chance to find any solution. Maybe this is a deal, somehow the deal. So therefore, everybody believes that some of the chance to get the deal in that case. So therefore, definitely we have to follow those customers' intention and the customers' direction, basically. What the shipping line should do on that basis is to be flexible. That is my word at this moment.
Yes, thank you, Saga-san. I guess we are facing a lot of hidden costs that could be coming into our shipping industry. But some costs can be passed on from the B2Cs, but some are hard to pass on, especially when it's B2B. So can we get another perspective on the dry bulk sector from James Marshall, founder and CEO of Bigger Bulk? So James, any particular trends that you see in the dry bulk segment?
Yeah, thank you, and thank you everyone again for staying. I mean, I would echo the other panelists' comments, particularly around for the politics and also the issues in Red Sea as well. I would say from a sort of slightly more positive note, we're mainly involved in importing dry commodities into China, and despite a pretty slow start to the year, actually the market for us has recovered quite strongly. And looks fairly positive for going forward. I think the sentiment feels a bit stronger in China, certainly better than it has in the last year or so. So we're seeing things like, housing prices finally stabilize, numbers of transactions in housing also stabilize. So it's not as though it's good, but it's at least the decline has stopped. And so actually we see fairly robust iron ore prices and volumes, particularly in the larger sizes that we specialize in dry commodities, quite strong. As we look further, I think there's still a lot of new projects in terms of supply of commodities coming on, which are going to come into the market, and we still see China absorbing those. From the shipping side, again, with a dry bulk hot on, we have to thank the tankers and the container lines for keeping shipyards busy, because actually there are not so many ships involved at the moment being built in the dry side. So again, relatively positive for the Capesize market. I would say with the smaller sizes, with Handys and Supras, they're a bit more affected by some tariffs. I think your business as well, in terms of grain flows, will look very carefully at tariffs, and we may see some change of flows, but I still think we'll see good volumes being transported into China.
That's very encouraging. I think we get a different perspective with a bit of positivity. I guess we heard a lot about geopolitics and emerging trends. The next prevailing trend, I guess, which is to stay, is the ever-evolving of shipping regulation. So we have the pleasure of Christopher Wernicke, Chairman and CEO of ABS, with us here today. So Chris, can you share which are the new shipping regulations coming into force in 2025 from IMO and EU? And do you foresee any potential emergence of new ETS from countries such as Australia or maybe China?
Thank you, Ying, and happy birthday, Singapore.
Thank you.
I think what we heard this morning was that all of us have got to learn how to embrace change and make uncertainty our friend as we move forward, because we clearly are in the early innings of a decade of change. There are lots of wild cards. We talked about several, kind of global shipping shapers. Obviously, we talked a lot about the geopolitical turbulence. We also have the fast pace of technology, and we have regulations as well. All these, especially on the regulatory side, are driving us to, in many ways, kind of new languages of shipping, new boundary conditions, especially as we look at decarbonization relative to unintended safety consequences of change, availability and scalability and affordability of fuels and infrastructure. And obviously new timelines, whether relative to short games, mid games, and long games. But I think one of the biggest things in 2025 that we are looking for is what is going to happen at IMO. because this industry needs regulatory clarity, consistency, and certainty. And IMO it really has to, in this year, generate some jet fuel for us in order for us to get to net zero by 2050. Because the calculus to get to net zero by 2050 is pretty significant. We need probably some sort of mix of 70% zero carbon fuel, which requires 10 times more renewable energy, and about 30% of carbon neutral fuel, which requires about 100 times more carbon capture. So what this industry really needs is we need to move fast. We really need a regulatory framework relatively quickly that basically is investable. And I think that's going to be the challenge as we move forward. What has got us to this point? Well, what has got us to this point was CII, IMO's framework relative to 2030, 2040, and 2050 targets. We have Fuel EU that has introduced a whole bunch of concepts and so forth. And it really now is up to IMO to really bring this together in terms of the technical element, the economic element, the flexibility mechanism, and make all that work relatively quickly so the industry, my fellow ship owners here, can basically have an investable playbook that they can work around. I do want to mention a couple other things other than just the regulations. Of course, we've talked about geopolitical turbulence, but we got a couple other things to worry about. You know, the global shipbuilding capacity is pretty full right now, to be honest with you. We have continuing discussions relative to energy security and energy transition. We have timelines of key technology transformations that have to get us there. And in the case of shipping, Ying, there are actually two stories. We talk about shipping for shipping, which is a decarbonization of shipping, but there is another story that is shipping kind of for the world as we look at the development of ammonia, hydrogen economies, carbon economies, and the potential for shipping to play a big role in that going forward.
Thank you, Chris. I guess I saw some of our IMO friends here today, so it's loud and clear. So back to you again, Chris, right? Linking back to Maritime Singapore, do you think there are specific regulatory trends that would have an impact on Singapore? And if so, how should Singapore position itself for it?
It's a great question. I guess let me just kind of start by taking a step back and look at just a couple more statistics. You know, this industry, whether it's you know, if you're an owner or even if you're, you know, a country like Singapore, to actually at the deck plate level, what you're looking at to kind of begin to address the, you know, the decarbonization and compliance problem going forward. About 70% of the answer is in the fuel. But the other interesting thing, about 15% is in energy retrofits and 15% is in data and performance optimization. So about 30% is actually low-hanging fruit that whether you're a port or whether you're a ship, and by the way, that's actually very important because the new regulations are actually introducing new relationships. And it's not just government to government or government to industry or owner to charter, it's actually ship to port. Whereas port efficiencies or inefficiencies will impact shipping efficiencies or inefficiencies. But I think what you saw this morning, the Maritime digital twin for ports, just a great example of being able to use data to begin to drive data decision-making decisions to optimize performance, to address the boundary conditions of safety moving forward. That's low-hanging fruit as we begin to wait for IMO requirements to drive this mid-game. Because the short game, we know the bookends. The short game right now, quite frankly, is oil and gas, probably LNG, carbon capture, things like that. The long game, quite frankly, could be nuclear. It's that mid-game that we really need IMO guidance that really helps us understand whether it's biofuel, you know, what is the pace of biofuels, methanol, ammonia, and potentially hydrogen and electrification.
Thank you, Chris. I guess in view of time, let's jump on to the second topic, which I think intrigues most people, and we have our panels who have a lot to share. So there are trends which we can only be reactive, like geopolitics and moving customer trends, but there are also trends such as green transition that we can all adopt a more proactive approach. So James, your team manages a fleet of over 100 ships. So from a ship owner's point of view, how does Begabalt approaches decarbonization?
Yeah, thank you. Look, I think we've tried to take a very practical view on decarbonisation. I talked about a four-pronged strategy of attack, and I use the word strategy of attack because I still really want to emphasize the sort of war on climate change. I think some of the sentiment, certainly over the last 6 months, has sort of shifted to, we can wait, but I really want to emphasize, the fact is, and, it's a war, and if I can use another shipping metaphor, this is, all hands on deck moment. So we've really been trying to demonstrate by practical examples about how we can lead a decarbonization. The first step has been around improving our existing fleet. And, I would say it's been positive. If we compared our fleet since 2008 to where we are today, it is 45% more efficient. So there has been a lot done about building bigger, more efficient ships. But secondly, we want to use new technology. So we've been really trying, and there's a whole range of new technologies out there. Some of them are not so new. So we've, for example, fitted large wind wings on our ship. These are old technology, but in a new format. Some of this is huge wings. So this is actually one of our ships is now the most powerful sailing cargo ship ever built. These are fairly dramatic changes, but they're all incremental. On top of that, there's a lot of technology around better route optimization, engine optimization, better paints. All of this new technology is helping make our legacy fleet more important. And it's important to remember, we still have a fleet which is going to be around for another 20 years or so, or 25 years. So we have to make the existing fleet more efficient to be practical. A third thing is to look at new fuels. And again, we need IMO to help us on that process. We're proud to say that we've ordered 2 ammonia ships. They're under Singapore flag, and so also have a lot of support from Singapore. But I really see that as a sort of longer term kind of permanent solution. I worry a little about the sort of temporary solutions, and I would say even LNG is that, it's not a long-term solution. So I want to see some direction and clarification how we can support things like ammonia and be very practical. We have a ship delivering in 2028. We don't know where we're going to get the fuel for. We don't know who's going to pay for it. So we need to make sure that is in place by the time the ship is delivered. And I think fourthly, again, trying to be practical, we need to still capture the emissions that are coming up from our legacy fleet, and also, for example, of LNG ships. So I think carbon capture is a very important part. We've recently trialed our first onboard carbon capture. We'll be taking that product off in Rotterdam, actually, so thank you to the minister there. But to be practical, we've got to stop CO2 going up the funnel eventually, and actually remove that if we're going to have a long-term permanent solution. So we're also a big believer in carbon capture onshore, and also how we can capture onshore. And we've been doing things like with nature-based solutions, planting trees, but also physical carbon capture. And I think that will be a very important way forward. I refer to another, and the senior minister talked about the damage from the war, and I refer to the Marshall Plan. I call my 4 steps the Maritime Marshall Plan, referring to the huge infrastructure spend after the war in order to repair the damage on the war. And I also see that we need to repair the damage from climate change and actually capture a lot of the carbon that we have historically put in the air, and we will continue as shipping, unfortunately, to put into the air for many years to come. So a lot of things to do, but I think if practically we do it, we can move forward fast.
I guess there's a lot of good things. It's not easy to put on dual-fuel ammonia ships and to install carbon capture when you haven't seen the whole value chain. But it's brave to do it, and someone has to take the lead. I hope more are going to follow the footsteps. So next, you spoke a bit on next generation fuels. So Saga-san, I understand that NYK is focusing heavily on next generation fuels. So can you share some tangible examples on how you are decarbonizing your fleet?
Okay, thank you. Yeah, actually, in view of our ultimate goal of the net zero in the year of 2050, we need to consider some of the long view or long development period. On that basis, NYK is now focusing on ammonia as a maritime fuel for the next generation. And why NYK just selected ammonia among the various options? That is because of the possibility of the mass production. At this moment, any of the new energy or new fuel is at a quite high price. It is a huge price, big price, and maybe it is not so workable before the customers, basically. In that case, the possibility of the mass production for the ammonia is much big for us, because almost every country has an ammonia factory or infrastructure. Of course, the purpose is different at this moment, but if they can get the clean energy, like clean electricity, and then they can increase their capability of the production in each country, it is easy for them to produce the size of the new ammonia for maritime use as well. In that case, price would be possibly going down, and that is going to be quite workable. That is our NYK's assumption. For that purpose, we tried to develop the ammonia shipping technology. And in reality, the last August, we have launched the world's first tugboat, which is fueled by ammonia. And that is still at this moment, still working in Yokohama Harbor at this moment. And also next year, particularly the November of the next year, we will launch that should be also the world first. It is a mid-class gas carrier. The cargo is ammonia and the fuel is ammonia. That type of the vessel is coming in. So technology must be going first. But the next step we have to create and develop is how to make a network of the supply. So that is our homework at this moment. But I would like to consider this together with all of the segment people. Thank you.
Thank you, Saga-san. I guess on stage we have two bets on ammonia. So Jeremy, your customers are very diverse, but at the same time, your trade flows are a lot more defined than our panelists here. So are there areas of green solutions that you think liners can do differently?
Yeah, I mean, on the liner side, of course, with the owner, the operator, we pay the fuel cost, and we're dealing with the end customer. And yeah, we're in about 120 countries in the world with about 20,000 different customers. So we have to think forward very strategically. We do take that very seriously. I think I'm amongst a peer group of competitors in the liner industry which have really doubled down on their investment over the last 6-7 years. Most of them are building dual fuel ships, and as ONE, we're well on track to reduce our carbon footprint by 70% from 2008 to 2030. So we're on a good track, good trajectory. But to Chris's point and everybody else's other point, by 2050 to get to net zero, we really have to get these green fuels to come through. So how are we doing that? We're making sure all new ships basically are dual fuel. We are leading on methanol and ammonia. We can't completely ignore the LNG because the EU actually is favoring the LNG more in their current regulations. So this is absolutely critical for all of us in the boardroom making multi-million decisions around what to invest in and which technology is what comes out of the IMO in the next 3 months to set the trajectory for the next 30 years effectively. So that's absolutely critical. But the other areas are also retrofits. We're doing a lot of stuff with the existing ships and looking at, changes to the bows, the propellers, the coatings on the vessels, looking at how to make the boilers or the engines more energy efficient. And in that regard, it's collaboration. We can all do our individual bits through R&D, but it's better to come together and work together to find out which pilots really, really work, these energy efficiency devices. And we're part of the Global Center for Maritime Decarbonization here in Singapore. We've got about a really, really professional team here. We've got about 40 different companies cooperating, and including NYK is a big sponsor, we're a big sponsor, but collaborating with as many people as possible to do a lot of these pilots to see whether they work, look at the scientific facts behind it, publish the data behind it, to try to help everybody reduce down the number of R&D dollars and speed up the learning curve. So I think that's absolutely critical. And then the third item is also procuring the green fuels. And of course, limited amount at the moment, but we are already taking offtake agreements now, 228 and onwards, for some of the green fuels.
Thank you, Jeremy. I guess another vote on ammonia, although for the container liners, I think they're doing a bit of a mix. So Chris, we know that ABS collaborates with all sectors in our shipping community. So based on the current developments of alternative fuels and the evolution of their value chain, which is a top bet that will get us to net zero?
Well, let me answer that question just a little differently, because we talk a lot about technology. Probably going to talk a lot in this whole conference and this week about technology. But, we need to talk a little bit more about people, because people are going to be the real heroes moving forward. And quite frankly, I would say we should be investing and paying as much attention to the next generation of safety learning environments for our seafarers as we are to the next generation of fuels. And that's something we can actually do now. And you asked me about what can Singapore do. I want to give a shout out to Singapore MPA and the government for their recognition of the importance of safety and seafarers, recognizing that when we talk about whether it's ammonia, whether it's using complex cyber-enabled physical systems, whether it's looking at autonomy, digitization, or so forth, we have to be careful, because what we don't want is seafarer cognitive overload in a situation like this, because people basically equate to safety. Safety is the mantra of our industry, and so as we look at fuels, now's also the time to be looking at people going forward, because it's not just, and in fact, it's not just even the training and continuous learning of seafarers, it's actually introducing human-centric decision-making into the systems that the onboard vessel, that these seafarers are going to use, because it's going to be a combination of well-trained seafarers along with human-centric systems that are intuitive and easy to use. So the question is more so, or the answer is more so that, yes, the technology will develop. Yes, we will begin to move forward. There will be many different options relative to fuels, but there is only one set of people, and people, unlike technology, have common sense, have a sense of humor, and have instincts, and we want to be able to take advantage of that.
Thank you, Chris. I guess a lot of bet is on chicken or egg first, right? But Chris has chosen the interlink, which is safety and people. So I guess we all know that digitalization works hand in hand with decarbonization. So I think back to you again, Chris, because you mentioned quite a bit on digitalization and data earlier. So are there any new emerging technology that can be a game changer for our industry?
Well, sure. I mean, when you look right now, you look at kind of where we're going as an industry. We're kind of moving into what I call Maritime 5.0, which is really looking at how do we utilize not just data, but artificial intelligence and predictive data analytics going forward. And so that has all sorts of opportunities, both in terms of designing different systems, different fuels, and looking at simulation and predictive data analytics, to operating those types of systems, to be able to kind of even use AI to continue to reduce costs relative to condition-based maintenance and so forth. So I think moving forward in the area of digitization, you're going to see a lot more focus on autonomy, digitization, and predictive data analytics, which is the low-hanging fruit, which we can use to drive costs down, because everyone is going to recognize in their playbook, probably line item 1 in his owner's playbook is drive your operating costs down as low as you can in order to be able to position yourself going forward.
Thank you, Chris. I think next we have James. James, I understand your team is harnessing technology to optimize operations and accelerate green transition. So can you share some practical examples that you're doing today?
Yeah, I think I would just echo as well the tremendous potential now for AI and data. I mentioned before route optimization as an example. We now use a really pretty sophisticated weather routing system, which takes measurements of buoys and determines wave height, and then runs hundreds of simulations on the way the weather is tracking and the impact of weather versus our earnings, and really can help optimize. So that's a practical example, but things like preventive maintenance are very important. We're also seeing it, and again, just Chris touched on that in terms of people, a really useful way of enhancing safety and training. Fortunately now, with much better internet connection on ships, we can do a lot more online training. We can update our simulation training, for example, where we can take in all sorts of safety impacts and issues and apply it to a new model for the simulated training for difficult ports. So we're really seeing benefits there. And also just from a more soft side again, trying to improve well-being of our seafarers, even mental health. There's all sorts of programs, online communications where we continue to communicate and are able to get feedback. So we run, for example, a Well at Sea program where kind of 86% of our seafarers now take part in exercise, as well as training and as well as mental health programs, which are all facilitated through better internet and better data. So I think there are a lot of areas that we see tremendous opportunities for improving.
Thank you, James. I think in an earlier panel, we hear a lot about cybersecurity. So Zahid, can you share how your team gets prepared on cybersecurity?
I think there's a couple of things. This is part of the benefit or the risk of digitalization. I think for us, just me touch on digitalization. I want to look at it from the way how it can help us in terms of preparing our seafarers, in terms of especially in the new areas, managing vessels that is using new fuels. Digitalization can certainly help them to prepare and train. I think we talk about the digital twins. I think that is really a critical development where we can help our seafarers prepare before they really need to be on board and deal with it. I think when it comes to cybersecurity, this is a topic that is a concern to everyone. We in MIC Group, we have taken a very proactive aspect in terms of how we manage the impact of cybersecurity, not just on our vessel, but it's on our operation. Some of our vessels, of course, is meeting the certain guidelines in it, but we also have a natural, firewall with regards to, some of our older vessels, they are just not digital enough for people to attack. So in a way, they have a nice ring fence against it. So this is in a way is a good thing to have this so-called old vessel, analog vessel. So cybersecurity not the main issues, because in order for anything to come, and there's a channel for them to go through, and that channel is once you protect that, there's nothing else you can do unless you go on board to take control of the vessels. But all our new vessels that is coming on stream, that we are on order, under construction, they are all meeting the requirements that we have in terms of protecting the asset from any of cyber attacks.
Thank you, Zahid. I guess we covered the market trends, we covered decarb trends, and we also covered digitalization. what really ties in all three together is what Chris mentioned. It's one resource, which is talent. So I can see majority, well, not majority, but some of the audience are baby boomers and Gen Xers. But as our industry evolves, we need to embrace not just the younger tech-savvy talents, but also talents that are not from a traditional maritime background. So it'll be interesting to hear from our panelists on their thoughts on the different kinds of expertise and skills that will become increasingly more relevant to our shipping industry. So we'll start with Soga-san. Can you share your thoughts on
yes,
talent?
thank you very much. Yeah, actually, the Chris's point out, I learned, I forgot to say one thing when I talked about ammonia. The most important thing for us is how to guarantee the safety of the sea crew, seafarers on board against toxicity. It is the nature of the ammonia itself. So therefore, a very heavy discussion internally, and we set up a lot of the assumptions for the systems, for the safety, including way of working on board. Also, that was the agenda for us. Then finally, we decided to go into the ammonia ship development. So on that basis, this type of the know-how, including this type of the know-how and the knowledge, we needed to share with our seafarer. And also we needed to have a new seafarer for the future. For that purpose, we established our Maritime Academy in Manila in the year of 2007. This is a 4-year college, and after graduation, they will become an officer and also engineer. And fortunately, majority of them are coming on board of the NYK vessel. So that is one of the areas for us to make focus. And now last year, we have started get the female cadet also. So therefore, now it is no gender difference in that college, and we try to get a more talented seafarer for future. And having cooperation with Singapore Training Center, which is also operate here together with the Singapore Maritime authorities. So collaboration with the Singapore Training Center and also our Maritime College in Manila, and we produce a lot of the talented people to the world. And the ammonia knowledge must be included in the training, of course.
Thank you, Soga-san. I guess, Jeremy, you also run a talent academy called ONE Academy. Are you doing anything differently in your hiring?
Yeah, I mean, I think we talk about seafarers a lot, and that's absolutely correct. The future technology that will be applied on the ships and the seafaring side. And on the container shipping side, we also have the other side, which is dealing with the customer directly onshore and also the management of the ships onshore. So we have around about 7,000 staff globally onshore who are handling the cargo, handling the customer and the interaction. And of course, we also have the containers that move around as well. So we move about 13, 14 million containers a year. We try to move as many of those as full and as few as empty as possible to reduce carbon footprint, reduce cost. So there's actually a lot of tech on that side. And in terms of people, people are critical. So in our 10-year plan, we've got a plan for ships, we've got a plan for equipment, for container terminals, but critically it's people as well. And we have to have very strong, capable people, a lot of talent, recruit the best talent, retain the best talent as well, and develop the talent as well. And that is absolutely critical. So people that are very good on process management, very good and comfortable with data analytics, people that can understand the digital process, and also, though, of course, people who are very good at handling and looking after the customer is very critical, and also have a good operational intuition is very impossible as well. But Yeah, it's about having really good people, really capable people with a global mindset, very good at process, very good at digital capabilities, which is the way to drive the company in the future.
Thank you, Jeremy. I guess we saved the last question for James. So the challenge for all of us is try to make shipping sexy and exciting for the future talent. So let's flip the question around and ask James, what do you think future maritime talents will be looking for in an employer?
Yeah, I think I have to compete there with the senior minister, Lee, who gave a very kind of inspiring reason why seafarers will want to come and work in the industry. But I think, as Jeremy said, it's both onshore and at sea. I mean, I think at sea, we obviously need to provide a very safe environment, one where people are motivated. Our seafarers love the idea of the new technology and getting involved in that. But it's also important that we treat their families well. We work with the local communities that they come from. I think gives a sort of holistic approach that people really appreciate, as well as the pure seafaring. On shore as well, I think the one area we're really focusing on, not only to be a fun place to work, etc., but is really to explain the impact that people can have. So I talked to some new graduates last week, and I was saying, you know, we've just done a really simple project. I mean, it's actually quite technical, a few people involved, but it's fitting a shaft generator to a ship. So it's a shaft, the generator goes onto the ship. It means that while the ship is sailing, we can turn off one of the generators. We save approximately 1.5 to 2 tons of fuel per day. That's call it 5 tons of CO2 per day. If you take 300 sailing days, that's kind of 1,500 tons of CO2. So I'm saying to them, you know, that's the equivalent of removing 300 cars here in Singapore off the road. And how many graduates can have that direct impact and remove 300 cars off the road when they're joining at age 22? And I think that's, you know, it's a really powerful story. So, you know, not only are we transporting goods around the world, and we all know, and everyone here is a believer in shipping, but I think the excitement and the ability to contribute to a way of decarbonizing the world and really make your impact, I think has a really strong appeal, and I think will attract more people into our industry.
Thank you. You seem to have a lot of great ideas to make it really fun. So last one, you know, any ideas where Singapore government or MPA can build support to create an ecosystem to develop such talents?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's promoting, as our senior minister said, you know, is promoting and explaining all of those. I mean, a big shout out again to Singapore. The training here is now fantastic. The support of the MPA, of the Singapore Maritime Foundation in producing exciting graduates. We are trialing, you know, both interns as well as graduates, and really they are. Homegrown talent is some of the best in the world now, I think. So I think a lot is going right. Obviously, we need the technical skills that universities and everyone's producing. But I think if we can get behind the motivational side as well, I think it will continue to be a great hub for business here in Singapore.
Thank you. I saw Chris pick up his mic. You want to have the last comments?
Well, I just wanted to say, picking up on what was just said, I think Singapore actually really is getting it right with respect to workforce development, because, you know, 30, 40 years ago when I started, the talent development equation was age, experience, and training. Now, the talent development equation is focused on skills and continuous learning, and it's becoming a shared responsibility, and it really falls into the fact that our success is going to be a team sport. And what Singapore MPA is doing with greater focus on simulation, human visualization, looking at even using gaming theory and gaming science embedded in their training programs for the seafarers, really really gets us to that kind of focus on not just skills, but a continuous learning. It's a learning journey for the seafarers moving forward.
Thank you. I guess we can go on and on, but I've been told to keep it within 45 minutes and we're badly overrun. So a big round of applause for our 5 panelists for sharing their enlightening views, and also a round of applause for MPA for hosting this week-long event. Thank you.
Thank you very much to our esteemed speakers and, of course, our moderator. I'd like to invite everyone to take a couple of steps forward for a group photo, please. For those of us that aren't taking photos, one more time with a warm round of applause for our esteemed panel. Thank you very much for your insights as we enter the afternoon. Again, giving us lots to think about over our lunch break together. Ladies and gentlemen, with that, we have come to the end of opening day for SMW 2025. Thank you again for choosing to join us this morning and for being a wonderful audience for opening day.